Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Good day, everyone. It's Phil Tarrant here. I'm the host of the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast for Australian property investors. If you're new to the show, welcome. Good to have you on board. If you are one of our regular listeners, welcome back. And it's quite a community now associated with the Smart Property Investment Show. So it's nice to know that we're doing good stuff and helping you or giving you some greater insights into how to invest in property more effectively and hopefully create wealth. That's what the idea is. So hopefully something for everyone, whether you're new to the game or and looking to buy your first property or have tens and tens and tens of properties. Hopefully everything is relevant. But as I always say, keep connected with us. Let us know what you think about what we're doing. And if you've got any questions for us, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, and happy to connect and engage and let you know what we're thinking and potentially getting on the show. But our guest in the studio today, someone who's been on a bit of a journey, I think, that will sound very familiar to many of you. Obviously passionate about the idea of investing in property, but often, like most people, information overload and they never actually get about doing it. So I've got Grant Iverson in the studio, and he's going to have a chat to us about his journey and where he is today and where he's going. Grant, how you going? Thanks for coming.
Very well. Great today. Thank you.
So you're a new investor.
I've been in the game for 4 years, but technically a new investor. That's correct.
Okay.
I spent 4 years looking, and in the last probably 2 months, I've managed to acquire 3 properties. So
Okay, so 4 years of education.
Absolutely. I was
Okay.
a master of property, but didn't take the jump. So the old emotional factors got in the way for me. So
Let's chat about that. I think it's a really good sort of focus for today's podcast. Why did you spend 4 years becoming obsessed with property and thinking about property, researching property, looking at property, and never buy anything?
Well, I think the thing is I was obsessed.
Okay.
So I wanted to master it. I wanted to get out there and be the next big property mogul. And I went and invested heavily, and I must have spent over literally $100,000 on my education and 2 years of just focusing on educating myself and becoming an expert in pretty much everything. And I realized that I was just overwhelmed. And then, after 2 years, I went out there and I said, right, now's the time to start. So I took 2 years looking, and literally every weekend, for me, it was looking at property up in Newcastle. I got in the car every weekend. I went up there and fundamentals were right, but just went back home and this wasn't right. And I was obsessed with getting the right property. And I just couldn't find the right property. And I'm sure you've got an opinion on that, but I just couldn't make it happen. So I just had to work out what's going on here. And all of a sudden I changed my direction and saw the light, so to speak.
Well, we'll chat about that. So you had finance, so that wasn't a problem. So no problem getting debt.
Yep.
And I'll be interested to know what you do for a living, because the way you're wired, I reckon I could pick what profession you're in, but I'm not going to say it. But I imagine it's something...
You're going to make me disclose it?
Yeah, I am. What do you do?
Look, I spent 20 years in hospitality.
Okay.
I took a sabbatical for 12 months and funnily enough, I
so
was single
hospitality,
at the time.
pubs and drinking and that
Pubs
sort of
and
stuff?
clubs, pubs and clubs. And I think that's where the property interest came from for me. I was working at a big pub that went through a massive renovation, and it was just an eye-opener of what...
So you enjoyed the
property.
process?
Loved it.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. And I thought, well, look, this is the point for me of 20 years. I'm going to have a change of career. Went and had a sabbatical with 12 months off. Did all the right things in that time, except got myself in a bad position for finance at the time, because no bank wants to lend to someone who's had a sabbatical for 12 months.
Yep.
During that time, I met my partner, who we now work together. So after the sabbatical, I made the decision. She's a naturopath, local naturopath, and we sat down and said, what are we going to do together? So I had the choice of going back into hospitality or investing my time into property.
Okay.
She had a business that needed a 0.5 at the time, and I went along and started working with her, doing kind of the back end, marketing, promotions, the admin, all that kind of stuff. Got ourselves in a good position, got the business working quite well. So financially, we're good for moving forward.
Yeah.
And then here we are now, sort of thing. So it's allowed me the time to educate and get into the whole property game. But, as I say, it's probably an overcommitment of the education side of things.
We talk about education a lot, and you need to be educated in property in order to make an informed decision. And I use a buyer's agent, so in many ways I outsource a lot of that responsibility to find the best property. And now I know now that you use a buyer's agent and you're paying them to do most of the heavy lifting, but you need to be well educated about knowing the process.
Totally.
So you need to invest in your education. So it's good, but you've invested both time and it sounds like a substantial amount of money, but more importantly, a lot of your emotional investment into education, which has been a handbrake more than a positive thing, right? So
good.
Was it a light bulb moment? Did you just go, shit, something's not right?
It was a light bulb moment for me. I felt that I had all the boxes ticked. Finance was good. I had education was well. I just felt that there was something missing, and I kind of couldn't work out what it was. And for me, it was more the personal side of the development and the property investment. And I thought, why can't I get this working? I've spent so much time getting it right. And I took a step back and I thought, what am I doing well in business? The business was doing well. And I thought, well, how can I take what I'm doing in business day in, day out and apply that into my property development career? So one of the fundamental things for me was I looked at my team and I had a really good team working with us. We've got 10 staff now and we've got 5 practitioners. We've got some naturopaths that work for us. And I thought it wouldn't be right for me to be a naturopath and then do the accounts and then do this and that. So we put on professional practitioners. Then I put on someone in reception who was great at the accounts, and all of a sudden our business started to flourish. I thought, this is working. So how do I apply that into my property development? So I then thought, well, fundamentally, if I can get myself a good buyer's agent, get myself a good broker, get myself a good accountant, then we could all kind of have a strategy, then maybe I could transition that learning from business into the personal side of things. And it worked at the start. But one of the biggest turning points for me was when I started getting all my professional guys talking to one another. We sat down and the accountant said, look, you're going to need a 1-page plan. Let's just simplify this. The mortgage broker needed to talk to the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent needed to talk to the accountant. And once we got that right, the ducks just lined up.
Yeah,
it was
easy.
It was easy. And the education for me wasn't so much about going out and having to physically do the buying and all this kind of stuff. It was having an understanding of what needs to be done and applying that through the team. So fundamentally, the education combined with the team was my kicker.
So it turned you from being an expert in everything into more so a project manager and leveraging the skills and capabilities of focused professionals to get the job done. So it turned from being probably a headache to quite good fun?
Yeah.
Fair?
Yep.
And you want things to be enjoyable, right?
Yeah, totally. I can tell you, back in the day of driving to Newcastle every Saturday to go to open inspections, I did that for 2 years and couldn't jag a deal.
Were you missing out on deals?
Yeah.
Like you were?
Look, it breaks my heart to see some of those deals that I broke. Yeah. It just, and I go back and I'd go to the auction and I'd say, this is my number. And that was my number, whereas...
There's nothing wrong with that.
Now I could go, look, Paul, what do you think of this deal? What do you think you could go to? Oh, look, the market's doing this. And, you could allow a little more if you wanted to. The accountant says, look, you've got a little bit more here if you've got to go over. So it just took the whole stress out of it. And I was relying on these guys to guide me. I wasn't taking their absolute nth degree to what they were suggesting. I had the education to kind of say,
and that's important. You got to challenge.
I see that. Exactly. Challenge. So that worked really well. And now I'll give you an example with Paul.
Is that Paul from Pure Property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I met Paul probably 6 months ago.
Okay.
And within about 2 months, we'd had our first investment property. It was just so easy. We sat down, we had a great strategy session. He said, what are you looking for? What are you after? What's your borrowing capacity? What's your mortgage broker think you can do? And we had a great chat. And all of a sudden he's putting these deals in front of me. And I realised that this guy spends 40, 50 hours a week out there in the field. And I was spending 10 or 15 hours a week. How can I compete with that?
You can't compete.
Exactly.
You can't compete. And this is what, I talk about a lot, why I use a buyer's agent, because if you're not using a buyer's agent, you need to be as skilled as what they are in order to be finding the assets that they're finding.
Yeah.
They do it day in, day out. That's what they do for a living.
Yeah.
And unless you can do that, it means you're competing in the market with people like that. So, you can do it yourself and it's cool. A lot of people enjoy doing it. Some people are very successful by themselves. But for me, I'm a busy guy. I don't want to spend my weekends looking at property. So the last thing I want to do, I want to spend time with my family.
Exactly.
So that's good. So it's a good story then.
Yeah.
So you've moved pretty quickly. So you've gone, you mentioned that you were in pubs and stuff and you saw a development happening and you liked, I guess, the emotional creativity of developing something. But like from a goal perspective, like do you want to sort of retire wealthy? Have you got a number in mind that you want to have as a passive income at some point so you don't have to work? Why property? Like outside of you like it?
For me, it's a great bricks and mortar type investment. We've got a business and, at the moment it's doing well. Touch wood, it continues to go that way.
Yeah.
But, it's a slight change here or a change in regulation or what have you. We could be, faced with uncertainty. Property, given that, yes, there's uncertainty, it still manages to constantly perform well over time. It's a bricks and mortar type investment. Plus, you've got so many options. It's if you want to go and do a couple of splitters, you can do splitters. If you want to throw yourself in 40 hours a week, you can go and do some development, or you can go and do, even if you just want to have some sitters that you sit on for 15 years and then sell and retire or trade down. So for me, I want to get in more to the development side. So the strategy that we've worked out with my accountant and mortgage broker and Paul is that we're looking for product with development opportunity, not necessarily now, but 2 to 3 years' time when we've got our business well performing. I can then take a sidestep from the business and then we can kind of look at doing the
So you want property to be a career?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I guess the upside of that is that you can create yourself a nice nest egg for retirement,
Absolutely.
but you can have the fun and the challenge and the motivation and the passion in the process to capitalise on property investment.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really good. Yeah.
And look, the key, going back to the team. Once I got that team involved and you had that support around you just to pick up the phone and say, hey, what do you think of this deal? And to have someone say, oh, look, I think you're a bit off the mark there. Let's come back. Just takes the stress out of it, and it makes it fun. And that's really what I was looking for.
Fun.
Yeah.
So what sort of stuff have you been buying? So 3 properties in 6 months?
Yeah, well, 3 properties really in 2.5 to 3 months.
Oh,
so
you're not messing around, right?
No, Paul's great. He's got a really good understanding that we're very serious about what we're doing.
Okay.
Yes, there was a lot of preparation time in that, but now we've got our ducks in a row.
So for these 3, so did you get 3 different pre-approvals and 3 different loans? So you just used cash essentially get into these properties. You haven't done any refinancing or anything like that. Okay.
No.
So you had a bit of a war chest that you could spend on property.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And is that war chest all of your money, or you've still got some more to go that you can tip into property?
We took a little bit of equity out of an existing property that my partner had.
Okay.
We're rent investors, so we kind of have we're renting and she's got an investment property, so we took a little bit of equity out of that. We did need to top up with some cash.
Okay.
So 3 years ago, our accountant said, look, if you want to do what you got to do, your business is so important to you. You really need to take that serious. You really need to grow this. You need to put yourself in a position where a bank will look at you and can see, tick this box. And really a lot of the preparation was getting the business ready so that we could grow our property portfolio.
It's a really important point, and there's a mantra: you make money in business, park in property. That's cool. I get that. A lot of people who are self-employed, they always lament about how hard it is to get finance, and one of the reasons why, as someone who is self-employed, it's hard to get finance because people don't run their businesses profitably. They use them as a vehicle to try and pull as much cash out as possible. So therefore, when you sit in front of a lender and they go, well, you're not making any money, Mr. X, I'm not going to therefore give you a debt. And I go, no, I really am making money. It's just that they go, well, no, this is what
about
this is what the financials say.
Yeah.
This is what your financials say, and therefore I'm not going to do it. So if you are self-employed, you've got a number of different masters. So depending on how you choose to run being self-employed, if you want mortgage debt, you got to show profitability.
Yeah.
You got to show income, and you got to show sustainable income. So your accountant said to you, you need to show that story. You need to get the business to tell the story.
We knew that we had to have a vehicle that we invested our time in to get, so you could, not necessarily go into that position where here's your tax returns and, this is as good as it gets. We had to show fundamentally good figures and, everything we do is by the book, and the banks love it.
It's very, very important. You've got to run it. You can't cut corners with this sort of stuff.
Exactly.
So it's good because a lot of people realise that way too late. And they might have years and years and years and years and years of losses, accumulated losses, because at some point in time they go, hey, I'm going to capitalise it because I'm going to sell something. It's not going to help you get debt.
Exactly.
So not going to help you get debt. And you need debt. You need leverage.
Exactly. And whatever it is, you cannot go into this thinking there's an easy way into it, particularly business owners. And look, my view, and it's my personal view, is business owners, I think, sometimes can be the most attractive because they know the importance of growth and they're sustainable and they're committed to growth themselves. you've got to be able to show that as well. You know, you cannot cut corners. You've got to be able to, and look, it takes time.
Yeah.
We had to,
It's not overnight.
the mortgage broker said, look, you need to be able to have a sustainable business that we can look at and sustainable incomes, and we had to grow that income. We had to work long hours and work hard for that and understand that the end goal was what we were looking for. And now we do everything strategically. We know what we're doing in 5 years' time, and the excitement is going to be along the way.
Must be quite satisfying that you're now on the runway, you're way down it, you've taken off. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, it's
when
great.
You think of sort of 4 years and of sort of missing it. I guess.
Yeah, look, a lot of people will kick back and say, oh, you're so lucky. But it's not. It's strategy, it's time.
Nothing happens by accident in this game.
Exactly, yeah.
So you said you dropped $100,000 in property education.
Yeah.
Who'd you give that money to? Don't name them, but what sort of people did you give $100,000 to?
Look, it was more along the lines of I wanted to learn to renovate. So I went and saw how to renovate. I wanted to learn how to do property development. So I went to property development courses. So they're the kind of things that I really wanted to. And I knew for me, it was like a university.
Yeah, fine.
I had a choice of going and doing a university course or picking the courses that I really
you did your own
MBA.
Yeah. Your choice, yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, you've got people like Tim Ferriss, if you listen to his podcast, and Vanderchuck, I think his name is. Those guys talk about, I think Tim Ferriss does. Yeah, I did my own MBA where I just went and educated, spent my money on educating. I didn't do a formal MBA, but I went and did the stuff I knew was going to give me the tools to be able to do what I want to do in the future. And it sounds like that's what you've done.
Correct, yeah.
Are you happy with the investment? Has it paid off?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I felt that there's not a course that I wouldn't say I wouldn't do again.
Okay.
Whether it be whether they're still around or they're not around or whatever it is, you always pick up something. And if someone said to me, what do you think would be the best way forward? My personal opinion would be invest in your own education first.
And I would completely agree with you on that. Invest in your own education. That said, you don't always have to pay for education. So, listen to the Smart Property Investment Show. It's free, right? You know, and there's some other very good podcasts around as well. But invest in your education. I wholeheartedly agree with you, but don't over-invest in your education. So you get to a point where you procrastinate on every single decision, which sounds like, it's
I wish we'd had a conversation 4 years ago.
Just do it, just do it. Just do it. And when you think back now, some of the reasons, it sounds like you missed out a few auctions. That's cool. And 4 years ago, the market in Newcastle's where you're buying, and I'll ask you why you were up there, but you got to set your rules for investing, and it sounds like you're doing it. But was there any other sort of stupid reasons why you weren't buying stuff? If you think back and if you look back into your psyche and go, the real reason why I didn't buy that was for this particular reason, was it nerves, was it confidence, or was it purely something very tangible? What's your read on that?
I guess it's
if you're going to give yourself a hard time.
I always go back to business, and I guess it's like it's a lonely process. You like to have the opportunity to discuss what you've seen, and we're human. We like to get a second opinion. We have an ego. We also have an emotion. So from that perspective, the ego is what kind of gets you out there. And I'm going to do this and that, and that's great. But it has to be balanced by the emotional side as well. It keeps you sane. But for me, a lot of the time, it was more just the emotion. Am I doing the right thing? And it was because I was so obsessed. I was really looking for that one property that was going to set me up for the rest of my life. And it really just wasn't. There's opportunity every weekend in the market. There's stuff out there that, whether I might not like it, someone else likes it, and they'll do something completely different and they'll make money from that. Or for me, it's, I like things that I can develop down the track. For someone else, it might be just a buy and hold and sell in, ride the market.
Do you think you had too many parameters that you were trying to make? Is that the issue?
Totally.
Yeah.
Look, with a lot of the education, you kind of say, well, look, this is my strategy here. And then another course would say, well, this is what you want to do. And then another one would be like, this is what you want to do. And you're constantly challenging yourself, being too specific. If you looked at it more holistically and said, well, that's great. I can renovate on this and maybe down the track I can develop. Perfect. You're combining the education. But you're absolutely right. What I was looking at really was just being too specific. All of a sudden it didn't match that kind of parameter. So I went over with that one and justified and reasons and said, well, that's why that's not going to work. And it just was a whole mind boggling kind of exercise,
I know the word you're looking for there.
And once I got those mentors, so to speak, the Pauls and the accountants, it's great to now have that conversation and, be able to kind of match it with those guys and say, well, look, can we do a development? Could we do a splitter, slider, whatever it may be?
Yeah.
And they go, yep, that's great. And you're talking the same language. And it's just, clarity is really important in what you want.
Well, and also to your point, it's less lonely as well.
Yeah.
You've got people on your side who are advocating for you. And I always say you got to be careful of whose advice you listen to.
Yeah.
You could have a team of people who are giving you appalling advice. So that comes back to the education. You need to be educated enough to be able to challenge the ideas. I know my buyer's agent, I'll give him a hard time. He puts a property in front of me. I'll go, okay, I will challenge him on why that property for me at this particular point in time, knowing my portfolio, what the upside benefits are, why this particular location. Like we go right through it and I challenge him the whole way through
Great.
it. And you need to do that.
Yeah,
you
totally.
can't, just by using a buyer's agent doesn't mean you completely outsource all responsibility.
Yeah.
You're still responsible. They're there to help you, but you're still responsible. So why were you looking up in Newcastle? What made you think Newcastle at that point in time?
In the day, 3 or 4 years ago, Newcastle matched what I was looking for. It was a good price point for me, so I was looking for someone around that 450 to 550 kind of mark. My strategy was to renovate and sell. If that was the strategy that I had adopted up there, it was going to be a kind of a get myself settled into Newcastle, do 3 or 4, ride a bit of the market, and then obviously move on to something bigger. I spent so long in Newcastle. When I rang Paul, my buyer's agent, said, Paul, I've been up in Newcastle for 2 years. He said, sorry, mate, you've missed it. Newcastle, you should have been buying 2 years ago. So he's now suggested we start looking at southeast Queensland, and that's where our attention is now, up in southeast Queensland.
So what have you bought then? So you got 3 properties? What'd you get?
Yeah, so our first property that we picked up in Queensland was a nice property in Bald Hills, set over 2 blocks, 1,200 square metres, 22 metre frontage, and was really an opportunity for us in 2 years' time, 3 years' time to take the existing house on the property and either slide that to the left and create a second block on the side, or at the back, alternatively demolish the house and put 2 freestanding houses side by side. Okay. So that's got a development opportunity.
So this is one house that straddles 2 blocks.
Correct, yeah.
That's a bit of a nuisance, but
yeah.
But it's, I guess, a good thing as well, right?
It's got the opportunity.
Yeah.
So for us, sometimes it's not about this was not a reno opportunity. It wasn't a buy and sell. The strategy was really, let's utilise the property at the moment. We've got good yield on it. It's almost neutrally geared, and 2 years' time we can knock it down. Do something with it.
So how wide's the frontage? Sorry, did you say?
22 metre frontage.
Okay, so a big part of this was understanding the upside benefits of this property, and that was that you could put 2 freestanding houses or maybe 2 duplexes. I don't know what you're trying to do, right? So that's a big point. What'd you pay for it?
We paid $560 for that.
Okay.
And fundamentally, that's where Paul was great, because to have someone come and just say, look, I've found this, that's exactly what we were looking for. The phone didn't ring until he'd found something that was spot on. And I said, Paul, this is great, and he said, look, here's all my data, and the numbers came with it, and all the schematics came with it, and this is the plan, and this is what we can do. And I'm like, mate, this is perfect. This is just too easy.
Okay, and that's sort of neutrally
geared now. Yeah. Yep.
Is that before or after tax?
Before tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So that's the way you need to look at it. A lot of people go, after tax.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter after tax. No. All right. So probably number 1. What was the second one that you picked up?
So the second one was up in Kippering, and Paul knew we were kind of looking for something with a development opportunity on it. And he said, look, I've got this property, and it's come on the market. It was at $475 or something along those lines. He said, we can't really do a lot with it as is, but there's a rezoning going through council at the moment. And he said, I'm really comfortable that if we got this property, the rezoning will go through. But we can't do anything with the property. But he said, look, I'm going to go and talk to the guys next door, see if they want to sell. So had a chat with the next door neighbour. And the property size on that one was, I think, about 560 or something along those lines. And the one that we're looking at is about 610 or what have you. So by getting the 2 gave us the opportunity under the new zoning laws to potentially put on a up to 21 stories or 21 metres high. So we could fundamentally get 30 units on that site. So we made an offer to the owner of the property who was selling, and he worked quite well with the neighbour as well and got everyone together, and they nutted out a deal, and we got the deal together, and it was subject to, the purchase was subject to both of them going through. Okay. So he had that all tied up, and it was all nice and tight. And we came through with the 2 properties side by side in a good area with rezoning. New infrastructure gone through.
Kippering, is that sort of, is it on Anzac or?
It's up near Petrie. They've got the new university up there.
Yeah, but is it on, so Kippering Kippering there's a station that terminates there, I think. The train.
Correct. So we're just on you've got the shopping centre on one side.
Yeah, I know.
And we actually, the back of the block actually goes up to the
train station. So you're on the west side of Anzac.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
that's it.
Anzac Boulevard, Anzac Parade, I can't remember what it is.
That's it.
Because that whole area's changed zoning recently, hasn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's the great thing about having a buyer's agent. I know I sort of keep pushing on about it, but Paul knew before it was really kind of out there that this area is going through a change. And the significant investment or the opportunity for us really is that we're getting in at a block of land price. And 12 months' time, when the rezoning goes through, we're sitting on a development site.
Yeah.
That I would never, even with the education that I've gone through myself, would never have been able to pick that up in an area that's got good growth.
I like that area around Kippering Way.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of investors up there recently. I've looked at some stuff up there. I've missed out on a bit in that area. Probably a couple of streets away from where you were. I can't remember the name of it. What's some street there? Anyway, doesn't matter. We're all through.
I know Paul's got another one at the moment that he's.
Of course, he's. I just bought some stuff in Cullunga, so I'm out for a bit. But that's cool. So you've got a side by side and another property, which is two blocks, one house on it. Okay,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. So the places you have in Kippering, are they sort of paying themselves at the moment?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
They are. They're slightly above neutral.
Yep.
We've had some repairs and maintenance. The houses are a little old.
Yep.
So I wouldn't say, if you looked at it, I wouldn't say that they're positive at the moment, but certainly in a position where they're paying themselves off.
Okay.
Nicely. We've got great tenants in there. It's a good area. The tenants are phenomenal. So we've been very lucky, but again, you can say luck, but Paul's done really well for us.
It's really interesting scenario, the old door knock. So just knocking on the door of the bloke next door and say, "Hey, look, you want to sell?" Would you, if you get the next one down, would you get it?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you?
I don't know how I'd be able to. Like they say, I'll have to hold for a while.
Yeah. Is that you out for a while? Are you going to buy anything more now, or is that?
We are out at the moment.
Okay.
So, but again, by working with our on our business, and we're really lucky. We've got a business. Most of our effort now goes into that business and really looking after the business, to grow the business, to be able to support our financial position, to be able to get back into the game. So that for us is, and look, these properties will be for us, the intention has been 2 to 3 years we'll do the development on that. So we're really kind of a little bit of land banking, so to speak, for us for a couple of years, and then hopefully we'll get some growth out of that. There's no guarantee. But
will you buy something more before you start to develop these properties, or it just depends?
It does depend. We've in a position that in an ideal world we'd love to start continuing or keep buying, but there's got to come a point where we're going to need to get some equity, and we'll need to do a development to continue on that.
And manufacture some equity that way.
Exactly, yeah.
And so do you view the business now as just a cash flow vehicle? Is that pretty much? Was it a naturopath
clinic, yeah.
So that's like, naturopathy is like nice stuff. It's not like acupuncture. It's sort of...
It's very much more about kind of a balanced,
health,
holistic kind of health. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is that a business that is an asset that you can sell at some point in time, or is this just a vehicle you can use to generate cash from to invest in property, or is it?
We've got a strategy that maybe 5 years. Wouldn't be earlier than that, but maybe 5 years we will sell the business, or at least have it in a position.
So it is a sellable asset.
Correct. Yeah,
okay, so
that's
you can
right.
do both. So you can build the business up, and there's upside benefits at a point in time if you try to sell it, that you can get a fee for that. But until that point in time, you run that business as well as you possibly can to generate cash flows to allow you to invest in property and show profitability, so lenders give you money, and then build your property assets on the side.
That's it. Absolutely.
And now that's very passive though, your property stuff, because you shouldn't need to be too involved in that, as long as the rents are getting paid and you're keeping up to date with everything, and houses aren't falling apart. You
exactly.
don't invest too much time into it.
Exactly. And the way we've bought, we know that we've got to spend another 2 to 3 years building that business and really sort of getting, putting more legs on it, making it kind of more stable and getting growth from that business. And by that time, 2 years down the track, I'll be in a position where we can kind of say, well, look, everything's going really well here. We've achieved that goal. Now we can move on into the development, and my attention can then go to the development side.
How hands-on do you want to be on the development? Do you want to be the project manager, manager, or do you want to be just the guy who pays the bills and makes sure it's okay?
If you'd asked me 4 years ago, I'd say the project manager. But look, from I don't think I'd be a good project manager because it's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
My area, from what I'm sort of feeling, I want to invest more of my time is developing a team around me.
Okay.
So getting a good project manager.
So being a leader.
Yeah. Supervising, overseeing it, but getting out of the way and letting those guys do what they want to do and what should be doing, and just kind of checking in on them.
It sounds like you find this new point of view is quite refreshing, right?
Very much so. Yeah.
Do you feel unencumbered? You're less stressed at all?
Yeah. Look, it's once you know what you want and you find that groove, then things seem to flow a lot easier for me now. And with regards to the business, I would never have thought, here's the 0.5 of a naturopath clinic, when I was 20 years in hospitality, selling beers and burgers.
Yeah.
But now to me, it's a joy every day to go to the clinic and to see that the opportunity that we can create there and move that then over into the property. And you've got very good clarity of what you can see down the track. And I think the biggest change that I've had is from the Newcastle days is I can physically see what I'm heading towards, and it's written down. My accountant's got a one-page plan of where we want to be in 2 years, 5 years, and as long as everything just keeps flowing forward, it's a lot easier, and the strategy's in place, and we know that we've just got to keep ticking this box and this box and this box, and
So it sounds like you have direction now.
Good point there. Yeah,
it's good. Direction is good.
Yeah,
you need to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's just the way it works. That's cool, Grant. No, it's a good story. A lot of lessons there, I think, for people. Do you wish you could go back and just shake yourself, 4 years ago and say, mate, come on, sort. How old are you, by the way?
47.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
47.
So you're not old, but you're not young either, right?
Yeah.
So you still got plenty of time to sort this out, right?
Yeah.
It's a long time to spend pretending to be a property investor, and that I say that nicely, right?
No, look, I totally agree with you. I mean, you can go in there and you can go through the motions and justify that, by getting into the car and going to Newcastle every weekend for 2 years, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the right job I should have been doing. I should have been investing my time into finding that right team, putting that team together, and like what you say, have your property buyer come to you and say, look, here's the deal. Then you've got the time to kind of, rather than getting in the car and driving 2 hours or 4 hours in a day, you could sit down and say, well, no, I don't like that, or the numbers just aren't right. And that's what I think was what I was missing. I was sort of being out there and I was going through the motions and physically present, but really not getting any value out of that time.
So I'm sure your story is resonating with a lot of people. They're probably sitting there driving in the car right now going, oh, that sounds like me. Yeah. What do you say to them? Like, how do you get yourself out of that mindset and start taking action? What would be the one step that you could do today?
I think that the number one thing for me is work out a way to get whatever the barrier or the block is blocking you, and you've got to kind of find that block. If you're not buying a property in this kind of market and you're property ready within 3 months, there's something not right.
Okay.
I don't think it should take 2 years for someone to realise that. It took me 2 years. If you're not having an investment or moving your portfolio forward, particularly now with low interest rates and those kind of things, you need to start looking and saying, what am I doing wrong? What's within me that's holding me back? Because there's other people out there doing it and doing it really well. And I think you've got to start looking and saying, what are they doing different? Not just kind of standing next to them at an auction and saying, well, yeah, I missed out on that. But what is it that I'm not doing that they're doing? And whether that's lack of confidence, whether that's lack of team, whether that's lack of knowledge, you need to find that out first. And then you need to go and seek out a way to find out how to overcome that. For me, it was going and investing in a buyer's agent and sitting down with my accountant and saying, what's going on here? You need to listen to those people.
So you've got to be pretty reflective and critical of yourself as
Correct,
well. Correct,
yeah. We've all got an ego, and it's nice to say, I'm out there and I'm looking at all these properties. But fundamentally, if you're not have any value in that, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point because I think a lot of people find themselves in this position at some point in life. It might be, for you, this might be a property thing, but for other people, it might be a relationship thing.
Yes.
For some people, it might be a career thing. For someone else, where they might be, I'm not going to say you're stuck in a rut, but you're in a cycle of, which wasn't a positive cycle for you, even though you're investing to try and sort of move ahead, but you for whatever reason, you couldn't see the wood for the trees, right? So the fact that you've been able to transition from that to where you are right now, it's good, and I think a lot of people can learn from that.
Yeah, look, I think a turning point for me was to look at what was working in my life, and for me, the business was doing quite well, and I said, well, what can I transition from that?
What can you learn from this apply
and apply it to that?
Don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, nice one, Grant. It's good, and these assets, they sound pretty good. A lot of people start looking for that sort of stuff often 4, 5, 6 properties in. So the fact that you're buying these, and benefits a good buyer's agent, buying these assets which immediately work, i.e. you can afford them, number one. Number two, you're getting a good yield on them and they're not costing you too much to hold.
Yeah.
But it's got that upside potential in the future to allow you to do stuff. And you know what? If you choose not to develop these properties, at some point in time, if you choose to sell them, you'll probably sell them to someone that will develop them.
Yeah.
So it's going to make them more attractive to the next person, should that be the case. So you got lots of choices, and choices in property investment is good.
Yep, great.
Brilliant, Grant.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, for someone, I mean, if listeners listening now, it's really about kind of finding that thing that's stopping you, because there's so many opportunities out there, and it's what is that block that's just not getting you across the line.
Yeah, food for thought.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mate, appreciate it. It's good. And let's get you back in. Let us give us a year or so, and let's see what you're up to, and see if you started working on these things yet, or you've bought some more, or you've got this gangbuster business that's doing whatever,
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
A lot of different plates spinning, so it's good to have plates up there and doing the thing. But appreciate your time, mate. Really
My pleasure.
Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au if you're not yet receiving our daily market intelligence. Smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. Go and check it out. If you'd like to come on the show, we, as I mentioned beforehand when we started the podcast, irrespective of where you are on your journey, every property investor has a story like Grant, and we're happy for you to come and share it with other property investors. And the more we do of this, and the different sort of diversity in the people that come on the show, it means that everyone can learn from it. And as I mentioned beforehand many times in the show, I'm probably got one of the most privileged positions in property investment Australia, because I get to speak to people from all walks of life, whether they're investors or property experts, and this is where I serve my apprenticeship. So I'm investing in my property education every single day, and I'm lucky I get to do this. But come on the show, have a chat with us, and share your story. If you'd like to do so, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au is the email address you need to email. If you've got any questions for Grant, me, happy to answer them. If you'd like to get your info from social media, search Smart Property HQ. We'll be there, and please keep those reviews coming on iTunes. We do appreciate them. Until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs, and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.